All right,
Nice.
fellas. So we're gonna be talking about Bagworm, and we got some South by Southwest love and coverage to dig into. So I hope you guys are ready to rock, and I'm only gonna take about 15 minutes or so of your time.
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
All right.
Cool,
So
cool.
once again, Travis from Horror Movies Uncut. Nice to meet you guys. I am speaking with director Oliver Bernsen and the star of the film, Peter Falls, who is playing Carol in the movie Bagworm. And Bagworm is going to be playing here at South by Southwest. We are now revving up our coverage. We got a chance to see the film, and now we get a chance to talk to these guys about what I like to call a very demented kind of late night, uh, very different version of most of the body horror that we're seeing in in films these days. So I'm very curious to talk to you guys about the film and kind of the thought process behind everything. So first off, Oliver, I'll start with you. Bagworm feels intentionally removed from the clean, polished aesthetic dominating a lot of modern horror. What inspired you to lean into this gritty late night exploitation style? And were there particular films or eras of genre cinema that influenced the visual tone?
No money.
Broke, broke.
No,
One
no.
answer.
We
Broke.
had no money to make. No, no, no. I think I like things that are very textural. I just like texture. Whether it's using film and seeing film grain, or a set that just has beautiful texture built into it, or the
Right.
world and seeing the texture of the world. And I think that there's a time and place for sure for like movies and cinema or art that is very clean and kind of almost feels like clinical. And then there's another great place for the mucky, disgusting dregs that feels like it just is bubbling with life and disease and stuff like that. And this is definitely what that movie is. This movie was supposed to feel like a festering wound. And
Yeah.
I've never seen a
Dirty.
festering wound that doesn't look, yeah, that doesn't look unclean. And as far as like influences for it goes, I love a lot of like the Japanese cinema, the kind of like early to mid 60s. I think like Onibaba is a great film, and like Empire of Passion, and the
Hmm.
movies that are kind of like have horror in them, but also are not just horror movies. They're dealing with a lot of existentialism, which is just always a great fun theme to kind of
For
work
sure.
through. And yeah, I never wanted to make something that felt like just that's what it is, a horror movie, or even a body horror movie. It does deal with horrors of the body, but it's not like you know body horror in the kind of Cronenbergian sense. Really, it's just
Yeah.
about a guy that's getting sicker and sicker and sicker. So that could just be normal horror, normal life.
Hmm.
I don't know.
I had a cousin that stepped on a rusty nail before, so
Oh
I got to see like in person when we were 13 years old, like what happens, especially if you're not, from like affluent means, you don't have a lot of money. So, he went to the doctor
yeah,
and stuff like that, but it was one of those scary things where you're like, oh man, this is not exactly what you would see. And I think it's funny that body horror, I feel like, is more coined in the mainstream as of recently, even back when Cronenberg and those guys were making films. I don't think they were really going into it like, this is going to be a body horror film. I think they were just like, hey, we got this really cool, gross idea. Let's see what it does. And I feel
yeah,
like you guys kind
yeah.
of jump in that world as well. So, Peter, talking about Carol, Carol's a fascinating character. He's messy, frustrating, sometimes funny, kind of dark at the same damn time, what I like to say around here. What was your process for finding the humanity in someone who seems comfortable letting his life slowly fall apart?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, thank you, Travis, for having us. By the way, this is
Of
great, and
course.
love these questions. And yeah, uh, I think probably the biggest challenge was how do you make this guy who he is on the page, which is not necessarily, attractive or, incentivizing an audience to
Not a
follow
terrible
him.
looking guy, but we get
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Physically, he's fine until he's ill.
He's hideous. He's
Doing great.
hideous.
Um, but he's not necessarily someone that an audience wants to root for because he's not the most, morally sound or nice dude. But I think probably the challenge was how do you make him like you said, human and relatable. And that's finding a lot of the similarities that I have. I mean, there's a lot of Carol in all of us, you know what I mean? And not
Right.
just the extremely frustrated, but the, really desiring affection and connection and community. I mean, he's very isolated, and I think we can all identify with that. And
Mhm.
I think kind of tapping into that pain was the way to make him, as relatable as possible.
And to piggyback on that, and Oliver, you can chime in too, because one of the things that you mentioned was, like the influence of kind of the early Japanese Eastern kind of noir horror thrillers that they were very prominent in making back in the day. And one of the things that reminded me of Carol's character is some of my own research that I've done into that kind of hikikomori shut-in culture, where
Mhm.
you're seeing a
Mhm.
lot of men that are kind of lost living by themselves. They're kind of doing, and I'm waiting on my camera to hop back in, but we're still rolling. They're lost and they're waiting on not necessarily somebody to save them, but they're kind of content with
Mhm.
being that way. When you guys were creating the character Oliver, was that one of the things that you wanted to kind of relay with Carol's character, that he is this person that some people would be traditionally sympathetic for, but he's kind of his own person, his own creator of his own demise, and he seems to be fine with that. So tell me a little bit about like the creation from your side of the character.
Yeah, I mean, I think like very simply, you could kind of say a little bit that Carol's, although he's not like an incel in terms of the kind of like sexual nature of his life, because clearly he's going out on dates and meeting women and pursuing that. But I think we wanted to craft a character that was putting himself in a prison of his own making and couldn't really see or realize that he had the key for it. And I think
Right.
that there are a lot of examples of this, like the ones you just used in Japanese culture. And then I kind of use the term incel, which is, kind of more Western, but has become a bit more ubiquitous now. But this character that is their own worst enemy. And I
For
think that
sure.
that was interesting to explore because they're both the protagonist and the antagonist of the movie. That's what Carol is in this movie. We don't really have a big bad guy like it's Carol, and then we don't really have a good guy because it's also Carol. And yeah, that was definitely like something where we wanted to create sculpt this person who was all of those things. And I think those characters, that archetype of character that's kind of exploring loneliness and like, even going back to the archetype of like the underground man,
For sure. Yep.
is a really interesting one, that thinks themselves to be the outcast of society, but sometimes it's as much society as it is themselves that have kind of put themselves there.
Yeah, I mean, the guy that everyone was afraid of growing up in the basement, like he did grow up,
Yeah, yeah,
and this is Carol. So,
yeah,
uh,
exactly.
Peter, Carol's condition deteriorates, and the story leans more into kind of the aesthetics and the kind of gore and things like that. How did you prepare for portraying that physical and psychological transformation?
Mm, it's a good question. Tracking Carol's illness just logistically was a challenge and also really fun. Going through the script, shooting out of order. We ended up kind of falling into chronology towards the end, which helped. But we track the illness like 1 to 4, and we're shooting 4 today. We're shooting 3. So just kind of tapping into that physicality, trusting yourself as an actor. When you're in the middle of a project, it's you wake up, you go to work, you come home, you shower, you go to bed, you're exhausted. I had bruises and shit on me by the end of, a couple of days. So you're just like, I trust that this guy's in me. I trust that, okay, if we're going to do a 3 illness, I'm going to tap into that. I'm going to tap into the physicality, the scratchiness, the coughing, whatever, all that shit. Um, and yeah, and in terms of prep, just Oliver's as you guys are both having an extremely nerdy conversation with references I don't understand. So a lot of the stuff.
You like have
So
no idea what you guys
yeah, I
talking
was
about.
like, but so Oliver gave me a lot of shit to watch, and I there was some, I was thinking about some inspiration too that I hadn't gone back to in a while, but like Mike Leigh Naked, David Thewlis in that. What was the Richard Grant in the Bruce Johnson movies? Like
with now.
that with Nail and How to Get Ahead and advertising, that kind of stuff. The like Solo Man Odyssey, very strange, id,
Yeah.
kind of bubbling up to
Used
the
car man
surface.
falling down.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
That so
Yeah.
exactly. That kind of stuff, helped with inspiration. And then when you're in the middle of it, it's like you lean on your team, makeup
yeah.
and like that. It's remarkable as an actor when you have makeup on your face, how you can tap into physicality, so it's really just like it's teamwork once you're in the middle of it.
Fellas, this has been great. I could talk to you about this disturbing movie for such a long time because I'm a huge fan. I'm also glad to see what I like to call more urban horror. I think we spend a lot too many times in castles and in the woods.
Mm.
So it's great to just see people in
Yeah.
like the city. My last question for
Yeah.
both of you guys though is really though, what do you hope people take away after seeing Bagworm?
I hope
It's
people are. Oh, go ahead, Pete.
Well, it's funny. I have people coming up, family and friends who've seen it, and they're like, "So this is what I think was going on in the movie. Tell me if you're right. Tell me if I'm right." And I think what I want people to take away from it is a vast array of interpretations and meditations, and because as the filmmakers, we don't even know to an extent. I mean, I think we all have our different kind of like, what does this mean to us, and how is
Mhm.
it special? And really want people to like take a risk in how they feel about the movie. And I think Oliver would really echo this sentiment when I say if people hate it too, or really don't even like the experience of watching it, that's great. Embrace that. Leave it a 5-star review on Letterboxd.
Still means they
Yeah.
watched it. Oliver, what about you? What's something you hope people take away after seeing Bagworm?
Honestly, I will say I do agree with everything that Pete said. However, I hope people just enjoy it. I
Yeah.
do
Oh,
hope. I do think that
wow.
like you can watch it and not really think deeply about it, and just enjoy watching something that you don't really know why you're enjoying it, but you just are. And then if people think about it afterwards, that's great. And if people don't like it too, that's really cool. But I do think there's something very kind of I hope people feel up. I hope people feel good after they see it.
Yeah. I know I felt very
Wow.
good about myself after I saw it. When you see it's hard not to feel good about your life after you see what Carol goes through. Well, fellas, thank you so much for your time. South by Southwest, get ready. Bagworm is on the way. We'll be down there doing exclusive coverage on site. Best of luck for you guys for the screening and everything coming up with Bagworm in the future. I know we'll be seeing it bouncing around at some other places. We'll look forward to seeing both of you guys in the future. Thanks again for your time.
Thanks, Travis.
Thanks, Travis.
Appreciate you, man. You're great.
Awesome. Great job, guys.